So I would like to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Woorin, an attorney at law from D&R AJU LLC. So let me introduce our speaker briefly. Mr. Song majored in navigation at the Maritime and Ocean University, and now he is a Korean maritime lawyer. And since 2018, he has been serving as an advisor to the Korea Cruise Forum and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. We talked about the institutional framework, and today his presentation theme is the legal and institutional support measures for the launch of K-Cruise.
네, 안녕하세요.
Good morning. As introduced, my name is Woo-rin, attorney at law from D&R AJU LLC, and thank you for inviting me to this meaningful event. So I believe that I'm here on behalf of all the maritime lawyers in Korea, and I worked as an advisor to the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries since 2019. And I gave diverse advice to the ministry, and I also served as an advisor to different institutions. I guess that's why I'm invited here, and thank you for inviting me once again. And the title of my presentation is the Legal and Institutional Support Measures for the Launch of a K-Cruise. So let's look at the illustration on the slide. And our main theme of the forum is ocean intelligence with AI. So I made this illustration using artificial intelligence. And throughout my presentation, you will see some of the illustrations like this, and it doesn't have the issue of intellectual property rights, so you can refer to these images made by AI. And this is the table of content of my presentation. In Korea, in 2015, cruise ship laws were enacted, and they announce a new law every 5 years. And for 5 major ports in Korea, we have the terminal and berth for cruise ships, and we are nurturing cruise professionals in Korea. Still, we do not have a national flag carrier. So we have to charter the foreign ships for cruise tourism. However, I believe that we have to launch K-Cruise so that it will be much more accessible to domestic people. The charter cruise method will have limitations in job creation and ripple effects of the expansion of the market. But still, we only have the charter cruise, which is a disadvantage for the Korean market. But I will talk about how we can facilitate the Korean national flag carrier and what kind of institutional and legal support measures are needed. And my presentation is based on the second cruise industry development basic plan announced by the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. So as I explained before, Korea has the Cruise Industry Act, which was enacted in 2015. And it has been around 9 years, but there has been only 2 rounds of revisions. And we have the stipulation which has the aim of fostering and supporting the cruise industry. However, even though after the 2 revisions, there was no related revision to this stipulation. And to introduce a national flag carrier, law should be the basis for institutions. However, even though fostering and supporting the cruise industry are the purpose of the enactment, there has not been sufficient efforts of the government of Korea. And to introduce and foster the cruise ship, we have the legal basis already in Korea. So we have the Cruise Industry Act, and we have the basis for shared property loans, and we have the special exceptions to the Immigration Control Act. And we also have the financial support basis for loans from the Tourism Promotion and Development Fund. And the institutional framework is already in place. However, it has been already 9 years since the enactment of the Cruise Industry Act. However, we have failed to introduce our own cruise ships in Korea. That is why we need to supplement the existing legal framework. On this note, the government and the National Assembly should pay more attention and make changes. And that's how we can bring about the actual introduction of national flag carriers in Korea. And we have to activate a ship financing. So according to Article 16 of the Cruise Industry Act, it says the state and local governments may implement necessary measures, including financial support to public institutions, associations, and other related organizations. We need the detailed plan to achieve this. However, it has not been sufficient. It has not been fully activated here in Korea. So we have two aspects of financing. The first one is policy finance, and the other is a private ship fund. As you know, cruise ship is expensive object. We cannot freely buy it easily. That is why individual capital will not be sufficient to buy a cruise ship. That is why we need ship financing. That will be the basis for cruise business, and that will be the cornerstone for the business. So we have the subordinated financing for policy finance. So for priority financing, they can use the vessels as collateral. So there is a lower risk. So that is easy to implement. However, in case of subordinated financing, there is no collateral and there is a higher risk of recovery of the capital. So this kind of financing is neglected hugely. In particular, Korea has never done the cruise business and has never made money out of this business. That is why financial institutions are reluctant to provide loans on this. That is why we need the government policy. The government should focus on job creation and local economy activation as the purpose of enactment of the Cruise Industry Act. So we need the revision in this direction so that we can provide proper support to foster the business. So we have the KOPC. It is a public institution under the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, and they provide investment guarantee fund to the ship owners. And we need a special article to make a proper institution for the business. In that case, financial institutions will be mandated to provide the proper loans for those businesses. And we have the Ship Investment Act in Korea. So they can loan the ships to the cruise lines, and they can provide dividends to the investors. And in 2002, it was enacted that for dividends over 300 million won, it was the subject of segregated taxation, and if it is below 300 million won, it was tax-free. However, later this stipulation was repealed. For general vessels, there is no tax incentive. However, at least for cruise ships, for the purpose of fostering a new business, I believe that we can provide this tax benefit because we have a clear aim. And by fostering the cruise business, we can introduce vessel financing. So I believe that it is a point we can consider for the activation of the business. Third, let me talk about the recruiting system for the crews. So we have the Immigration Control Act, which has an exception for the limit of stay for foreign crew members. And we have Article 13, which is about the training of cruise industry professionals. So we have the legal foundation for all of this already. Still, we do not have the clear review process for the stay period of foreign seafarers. So only for ferries and fishing boats, which have been the focus of the legal framework, the cruise ship has not been clearly covered in the law. But for cruise ships, there are so many foreign seafarers, but they are subject to the existing laws which didn't consider the cruise ship. That is why we need another revision to the Cruise Industry Act so that we can make an exception for foreign seafarers working on cruise ships, so that they can have no difficulties working on the Korean cruise ships. Second, we have domestic seafarers. We never had a cruise ship in Korea. That is why most of the crew members at the beginning were foreign seafarers. However, when we have a national flag carrier, we need national seafarers, the Korean seafarers. And those professionals on board should receive proper training. And we already have the legal foundation for the training of cruise professionals. And we have to actively utilize these articles so that we can train the professionals in Korea who can work on cruise ships when we do have those ships. And we need concrete action on this matter. This is the fourth topic I have prepared. And in Korea, currently, we don't have K-cruise. Then why do we need the Korean national flag carrier? We can still invite foreign vessels. We can have Korean tourists on board and go overseas. But I want to talk about this. The cruise industry is a comprehensive industry. There are different types of businesses. It could be a maritime business or a shipping business, and it is like a 5-star hotel, so it could be part of the tourism and accommodation business. So the cruise industry has a different aspects. So to expand the foundation of the business, at the end of the day, we need cruise ships. That is the essential part of the business. The charter cruise ship is destined to have limitations. So looking back on the pandemic era, we couldn't maintain the basis of the industry because we didn't have the cruise ship in Korea. We cannot develop policies when we do not have the Korean national flag carriers, and we cannot operate a business. That is why we need the launch of K-Cruise. The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries developed plans to activate K-Cruise. The first one is the cooperative system. They want to establish a cross-ministerial council to support national flag carriers and regularly identify and promote support issues. And the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries and the Ministry of Sports and Tourism are working together on this matter. However, there has been no concrete plan to introduce K-Cruise yet. As I mentioned, we need to review the existing law, and we have to think about how to introduce K-Cruise and develop the business. I believe that we are at a crossroad now to think about it. The second plan is about incentives. The ministry would like to expand the port facility usage fee reductions for national flag carriers. And the local governments are highly interested in this. We have the Port Act and Port Corporation Act. And based on these laws, we charge the fee to use the port. And berth is a shared asset, and national flag carriers can have incentives on the use of a berth. And in Korea, the development is concentrated in the capital area, so it is hard to activate and revitalize the local economy of different cities. So at the end of the day, we have Sokcho, Yeosu, and Jeju, which could accommodate cruise ships. They are not located in the capital area. So if we make enough efforts in this area, we can revitalize the local economy. But the government needs to provide incentives to attract business in these different cities. And the third one is regulatory innovation. We need bold regulatory innovation to facilitate the smooth business for national cruise ship. And I'm interested in casino business. And casino business has a negative image because it is related to gambling. That is why the government has a strict regulation which impose limitations on the casino business. That's why when we enacted the Cruise Industry Act, we had a regulation related to casino business. However, the article itself was not perfect. So, by revising the act, there was a movement to deregulate casino business. However, it always faced a strong opposition. However, casino is not a mere gambling. Casino is an integral part of the cruise business. So when we look at foreign cruise ships, casino is a great source of income for the business. So when we have the national flag carrier, we need to repay the financial institutions when we take out loans. And we have to give incentives for the operators to do so. However, we are still staying in 2015 when we enacted the Cruise Industry Act. The casino was limited, but we shouldn't stay like this. And in Korea, we cannot operate a casino business, and domestic tourists cannot enter casino operated in Korea. However, when we have a casino business on board, domestic tourists could visit the casino as well. Otherwise, Korean people might not be able to enjoy casino even though they are on board, but if they are in the Korean territorial waters. So that is why we need regulatory innovation that is required as an incentive for the cruise operators in Korea. This is the conclusion. The existing Cruise Industry Act serves as a legal foundation, but we need revisions and active review so that we can actively utilize the law. And cruise ship is expensive. That is why financing is key. A policy financing could be provided by the government in the format of the subordinated financing and fund. That could be the initial financial support for the Korean cruise businesses. And when we have the cruise ship, the seafarers are required, and along with the seafarers, the operators will also hire crew members, and we have to train the professionals in advance. And even though it is at an initial stage, cruise ministerial agency cooperation is required, including the efforts of the local government. In that case, we can develop legal and institutional support measures for the cruise business. Thank you very much.